Right now I have Larry Spring with me. Larry is the superintendent of schools. He came on board about a year or two ago, wasn't it? Or
Not quite a year.
not quite a year. And he's certainly up to the challenge, and we're finding out more about budgetary problems. I don't imagine the sequestration has any impact on you, or does it?
Oh, it does, yeah. So sequestration for Schenectady is a penalty against us in the neighborhood of about $410,000. Really,
that's not pocket change.
No, and it's probably the hardest part about it is targeted at programs that hit some of the neediest students that we have. So it's hitting the federal programs that target services for children that are living in poverty, as well as special education programs.
Special ed is so important. I mean, and we'll be talking about autism coming up in one of our future segments here today. So, I mean, all of these kids are affected where they might need some special aid or something.
Yeah, so, but it's, when we take a look at what our overall budget gap is, that little cut bumped us up from about a $9 million gap to about a $9.5 million gap.
And that's a lot.
So it's, that's a pretty big, gap for us to try to bridge in a budget season. We're going to look at, using up some of the fund balance to help with that. We're hoping for, an increase in school aid, but, we certainly don't think we're going to get all of the aid that we're deserving. That the funding formula that the state has adopted prescribes us to get. We won't get anywhere close to all of that.
When you look at aid, you're going to get federal aid and you get state aid. What is your biggest contribution?
State aid.
The state aid.
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah, we're a school district that is highly dependent on state aid because of our level of poverty. So our combined wealth ratio that looks at income in a school district as well as property wealth. The state has that figured out so that 1.0 is the average combined wealth ratio in the state. We're about 0.38. Mm-hmm. So we're about a third as wealthy as the average district in New York State.
One of the things we talk about, the poverty level, but I have to say that Schenectady School District is such an enriched school. Mm-hmm. You have a fine arts school. You do so much to enrich the community and the kids.
Yeah, we've got a number of things that I think allow us to continue to have fantastic things happening for kids. First of all, there are the kids themselves that are just amazing. They're dedicated, they're bright, they're hardworking. We have kids every year that go to Ivy League schools that just amaze me and get scholarships in areas that I didn't realize you could get scholarships in.
Yeah.
We have more nationally board certified teachers, which is kind of the gold standard for teaching certificates.
I was amazed when that program started, and so many of your teachers did get involved. So and it's not an easy thing. It's not like you say, "Oh, here's my application, give it to me." No, they have a lot to do.
They do, and it's a program that was started by a very very well respected international researcher on how to make sure that teachers really were passing some rigorous bar to ensure that they're providing quality instruction. And so this was no easy program for teachers to get through, and not all of them do. Many of them have to take it again or again, and some of them are not ever able to reach that bar. Mm-hmm. But we have more nationally board certified teachers in our district than any other district in New York State, with the exception of New York City.
And then it's pretty tough to compete with them, right?
So, but we have very high level of really qualified, really dedicated teachers, willing to do lots of things for kids to make sure they get those kind of opportunities and are able to achieve
and
like that.
And they may think outside of the box of new ways to be innovative and to get kids interested in learning. It's so. It's sort of like the kids go to school and go, oh, I got to go to school and I got to study for a test and I got to read 2 chapters and what is that teacher thinking of? It's tough.
It is.
Because you're dealing with kids that have kind of a, not all of them, but many have a negative, like, oh, this is work. What you have to do is create an environment where it's not just work, it's learning and it being exciting.
Yeah, so the dilemma for teachers, I think, is twofold. So on the one side, we've got folks who are really working at how do we make school seem like what life is like on the outside.
Right.
So it's not school for school's sake, but kids can see, who really
Application.
values, products like this. I'm not doing this just for you. I could be doing this for anybody. And how do we make this look like something that I might really be interested in doing? Kind of
Right.
try on an occupation for a little while. But then we also have some kids that it's not just about, I don't want to do schoolwork for school's sake. Their level of concern is about some other things. They've got some needs in their life that make it really hard for them to focus on anything other than, the immediate
Survival.
tomorrow. The immediate
Yeah.
tomorrow.
Yeah.
And that's a different kind of problem that teachers have to wrestle with. And they're really living a reality where, we need to think about, some very basic needs for some of our kids before we can start to think about, how we can make instruction really dynamic and connect with them. And that's a level of difficulty that, we've got a staff that I think
Are sensitive to that.
sensitive to that, and I think have got a lot of experience and have developed quite a bit of skill in being able to do that. I'm very impressed with that.
So you have quite an array in each class that could be from the high achievers to the ones that barely know if they had a meal yesterday.
Yep.
I mean, I hate to say that,
Yeah.
but or a good nutritional meal, I'll
Sure.
put it that way.
Well, we send home every Friday, more than 200 backpacks full of food with kids. We've got this running in 3 of our elementary schools now, and we're always looking to grow it. But every Friday, we've got staff who scramble to make sure that these backpacks get filled up with food, so that these kids can bring home nutritious meals, so they're not going hungry over the weekend.
I had no idea that you were doing that.
Yeah,
And
so-
who do you partner with on that?
That's with the food pantry.
The
So,
food pantry. Okay.
And so we're, going and picking up that food in the middle of the week, loading up the backpacks, sending those home. We've been doing this for a number of years. I don't think we've lost a
It's the
single
first I've
backpack
heard of
yet.
it. That's
Yeah.
really great.
I don't think
to
we've
hear.
lost a single backpack. The
Yeah.
kids always bring them back, always take care of it.
Get a refill.
It's it's a very real issue that we have to wrestle with.
Now, knowing that you have a budgetary crisis, or I call it a crisis, maybe it isn't a crisis, but it's $4.5 million seems like a crisis to me.
It's $9.5 million.
Or 9.5, I'm sorry.
And so it seems like a crisis, but it's also fairly persistent. And so every year we've got this gap. As we start to realize how it is that we fund public schools is not, really viable in the long term. We're underfunding, in particular, poor urban school districts and poor rural school districts tend to get, really underfunded.
Yeah, when they should get a little bit more.
We're beginning to find this isn't a great model.
What can our viewers do to help you? Or help any school district?
Sure. Well, certainly there's always, the notion of advocating with your legislators and talking about, one is about equity, and so there is a funding formula that the state has prescribed and how much aid school districts are supposed to get, and Schenectady gets 54% of the aid that formula says we should get. The next lowest district in the region gets 62% of their aid. The median district in the state gets 82% of their aid.
So you're really in that line.
Yeah. So we're, so there's that
you need equity.
element. That's important. The other piece is we're about to be going out and asking folks in the community to respond to a call for volunteers. And so, we're looking for folks to sit down with individual kids.
Mentoring?
At the elementary level, it wouldn't be mentoring. It would be, doing some reciprocal reading things with kids. Reading to, with, and having kids read to them.
Great idea.
And at the older level, it would progress up into mentoring kinds of things.
So don't complain about kids. Get out there and do something, right?
Absolutely.
Help them a little bit.
Absolutely.
Give them a
Our
boost.
kids are wonderful.
They
need time with adults. They need time with folks who have been through
Care about
school,
education.
see the value in it, and can help kids see where they can go with it.
Yeah. Larry Spring, Superintendent of Schenectady Consolidated School District. We're very pleased to have him here. We'll have him on again. I know you're scheduled again, and we're going to keep getting updates on the school district and finding out what they're doing to make our kids a lot more happier in school, put it that way. Look, now back to Green Lake Park and Kunming, China. Enjoy. When we come back, we'll be speaking with our next guest, and we have Gary Stryer from the Red Cross, who is also doing some great stuff. Stay tuned.
I'm walking toward the pagoda. I'm 10 minutes into the walk.
Targeted at programs that hit some of the neediest students that we have. So it's hitting the federal programs that target services for children that are living in poverty, as well as special education.
Challenge, and we're finding out more about budgetary problems. I don't imagine the sequestration has any impact on you, or does it?
Oh, it does, yeah. So sequestration for Schenectady is programs.
That's, special ed is so important. I mean, and we'll be talking about autism coming up in one of our future segments here today. So, I mean, all of these kids are affected, where they might need some special. Right now I have Larry Spring with me. Larry is the superintendent of schools. He came on board about a year or two ago, wasn't it? Or
Not quite a year.
Not quite a year. And he's certainly up to the challenge.
You know, a penalty against us in the neighborhood of about $410,000. Really,
that's not pocket change.
No, and it's, you know, probably the hardest part about it is